Welcome back. Well, we've all been in a situation where we've had to talk with somebody and the topic was less than favorable. With us today is Ashley Rae from her brand Enterprises to talk about facilitating those difficult conversations. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So talk us through what is the first steps in navigating these conversations.
So why don't we first talk about those conversations and how they affect us and why they're important to have, and then I think we're going to take a break and come back. So when we come back, maybe we can talk about some of those specific steps. So, you know, depending on where you get your numbers, these might be different, but on average, about 66% of us, 2/3 of us, feel stressed or anxious when we know a conversation is going to happen, a difficult conversation, and about 85% of professionals experience conflict in the workplace at some point or another. And what we need to remember is that conflict doesn't mean that it's always negative, right? Conflict is simply an opportunity. It's an opportunity for people to come together, to communicate appropriately and effectively with one another in positive and constructive environments, and then move forward in positive and constructive manners while freeing up those maybe yucky negative feelings associated with that conversation. So, you know, whether it's with a colleague, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, we've all had those conversations, and difficult conversations are hard for any of us to have, which is why we consider them to be difficult. I've had those conversations. Many times conversations don't always go how we had hoped for, and that's why we stress the importance of facilitating these conversations in productive and constructive environments, because the outcome can be completely different. So whether we're working with somebody one-on-one, or maybe we're doing a workshop, a group workshop for a corporation, just really helping people understand, whether it's a professional setting or a personal setting, how to approach these conversations. So what I would love to do when we go to break, I want our audience to think of a conversation, to come up with a conversation in their head before we come back. And it can be either a difficult conversation that we've already had that maybe didn't go exactly how we hoped, or it can be a difficult conversation that we're yet to have, that we're maybe putting off and we don't want to have it. And the steps that we're going to take to prepare for that conversation, facilitate that conversation, and then let go of those negative feelings, the steps we're going to take are going to be different depending on the type of conversation that we're having. If it's going to be different if I'm dealing with a colleague versus my husband, or maybe my mom or somebody. But you know, just really, again, identifying that the steps are going to be different, and then even the steps that we take are going to vary a little bit, which is why it's important to work one-on-one sometimes with people when we work with clients, or again in a workshop setting. But that's what I want people to think of when we're at break, is just come up with one of those conversations. I know we can all come up with them. We all have them. And then when we come back, talking about some of those steps that we can take to prepare, to facilitate, and then to let go and move forward in a positive manner.
The difference when you're talking about dealing with colleagues and then dealing with, I mean, your husband or something, it's just kind of more the candidness and the words that you can and can't use.
Absolutely.
Not saying that you can talk worse to your husband than your colleague, but
yes,
you can be, you get misunderstood, it's not the end of the world.
Absolutely. And how we prepare for that conversation with our family member versus our colleague is going to be different, right? How we deliver that message is going to be different. The environment we're in is going to be different. And those are all going to be things that we talk about in each of those pieces of having that difficult conversation.
Okay, so we should go to break. And what should people be thinking about right now?
So think of a conversation, again, either a conversation you've already had. We've all had it, right? We've all had difficult conversations. We've all had conflict with people. So either think of a conversation that you've already had that didn't quite go how you wanted, or think of a difficult conversation that you're yet to have that you've maybe been putting off. Okay. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about the steps of how to prepare yourself for the conversation, how to facilitate, how to have the conversation, and then how to move forward from that conversation in a very positive, constructive way.
All right, I'm going to go get my notebook. We'll be right back. I need to take some good notes on this.